They say Paris is the city of love. For me, it's the city where I lost everything. My fiancé, my sister, and now my mother. At the funeral, Camille sat in the front row wearing our mother's rings like she'd already won. And before the coffin was even lowered, a stranger pressed a wax-sealed envelope into my hand. The envelope wasn't a goodbye, it was a threat. My mother wrote, "If you're reading this, I'm dead," and it wasn't an accident. She said there was a second will, hidden money, a fire in Montreal, a woman who mattered. She said my father lied about what happened that night, and that Camille would destroy me if I confronted her alone. Then the letter delivered one final blow. You are not who you think you are. I didn't even have time to process it because my phone rang. Adrian, the man I left at the altar. I answered. He barely got my name out before he whispered, terrified, "He found me." And in the background, a familiar voice spoke, soft, controlled, deadly. "Leah, hand over the letter." That was the moment I understood something I'd spent my whole life refusing to believe. In my family, love was never just love, it was leverage. And it started long before my mother's funeral. The first time I walked into a church wearing white, I didn't make it to the vows. I made it to the side corridor, where the air smelled like lilies and wax, and saw Adrienne Delacour press too close to my sister Camille. Camille's lipstick was smeared, her laugh too breathless to be innocent. Adrienne's hand wasn't on her waist by accident. And when Adrian looked up and saw me, his face didn't show surprise. It showed resignation, like he'd been waiting for me to find them. I turned around before either of them could speak. I never walked back down that aisle. I left my veil on the marble floor like a corpse and disappeared from my own wedding. That was 3 years ago. Now I was back in Paris, staring at another white thing. A casket. My mother's. The church was quieter than I remembered, not peaceful, quiet like a room that knows you're about to scream. In the front row, Camille sat perfectly composed, too perfect. Black dress, sleek hair, a single tear dabbed with a handkerchief that looked rehearsed. Her posture said grief, her eyes said victory. I tried not to look at her hands folded in her lap. It didn't work. Camille wore my mother's rings. Not one ring, both. The signet ring of Maison Morel, the diamond band my mother never took off, not even when she was sick, not even when she was scared, not even when she was scared. My throat tightened so hard I tasted metal. She hadn't been dead 24 hours, and Camille had already taken the crown. A hymn began. The priest's voice rose toward the ceiling. I couldn't hear any of it over the pulse roaring in my ears. My phone buzzed once inside my clutch. A message from an unknown number. Don't let her bury the truth with her. My fingers went cold. I typed back, "Who is this?" No reply. When the service ended, people lined up with soft smiles, condolences delivered like they were performing a role. They touched my arm, murmured sympathy, avoided my eyes. Maison Morel was a perfume dynasty, elegant, expensive, intoxicating. Nobody wanted to inhale too deeply. Camille hugged everyone like a politician. When Camille reached me, she paused, just long enough to be deliberate. "Ma pauvre, you came. I wasn't sure you would," whispered Camille, her breath smelling faintly of mint and something sharper. I stared at the rings. "Take them off." Camille blinked, slow. "Maman wanted me to have them." "She wanted you to have everything," I said, each word measured so I wouldn't lunge. "Even things that weren't yours." Camille leaned closer, voice honeyed. "Is this really the day to do this, in public, after all your performances?" My nails cut into my palm. Camille lived for scenes. Camille fed on them. So I smiled with my mouth only. "Enjoy your jewelry." And I turned away before my composure cracked. Outside, the sky was the color of old pewter. Paris smelled like damp stone and car exhaust and morning. I walked fast, trying to breathe like a normal person. A woman in a simple gray coat approached me, not a guest, not family, not anyone I recognized. "Mademoiselle Morel?" she asked. "Yes." She slipped something into my hand, an envelope, thick, sealed with deep red wax stamped with the Morel crest. "Your mother asked me to deliver this," she said quietly. "Only to you, not your sister, not your father, not him." "Who are you?" I demanded. Her jaw tightened. "Someone who owed her." Then softer, "And someone who's afraid." Before I could ask another question, she stepped back into the crowd and disappeared like she'd never existed. My heart hammered as I turned the envelope over. On the front, in my mother's handwriting, "Give this to Adrian, if you can. If you can't, read it. But whatever you do, don't let Camille touch it." Adrian. Even in death, my mother was still saying his name. I walked away from the church until the noise thinned, until I was under an underhang on a narrow side street, alone with the envelope like it was a live wire. "Burn it," I told myself. "Give it to Adrian like a curse. Or read it." My hands shook as I broke the seal. Inside was a single folded letter and something else, heavy, glossy. A photograph. It was old, faded at the edges. A summer scene near the Seine, children with sticky hands, cheap ice cream, sunlight bouncing on water. One of the children was me. The other was Adrian. We were 8, 9 maybe, standing too close, smiling like we belonged to each other before life taught us better. On the back, my mother had written, "He was chosen, not found." My knees weakened. I pressed my back against the wall as the letter slipped open. The first line hit like a slap. "My darling Leah, if you're reading this, I'm dead, and it wasn't an accident." The world narrowed to black ink. "I don't have much time. I can't trust anyone in the house anymore, not even your father, especially not Camille. They think you're weak because you left. They think you'll stay gone." My mouth dried. "Adrian was brought to you for a reason. I did it. I thought I could control the story. I thought I could keep you safe. Instead, I gave Camille a weapon, and I gave your father a distraction." My pulse slammed in my throat. "I made mistakes that will cost us everything if you don't act. The fire in Montreal was not an accident. A woman died, a woman who mattered. Your father lied, and the person who is punishing us now is not satisfied with my death." My hands cramped around the paper. "The rings are not Camille's. The company is not Camille's. And you are not who you think you are." My lungs locked. "Not who you think you are." I forced myself to keep reading. "There is a second will. There is money you don't know about. There are transfers that will make you hate me. And there is one place you must go before Camille does, my private safe at the atelier on Rue de l'Abbaye." The last lines weren't love. They were strategy, written like a warning flare. "If you confront Camille alone, she will destroy you. If you trust your father, he will bury you. And if you give this letter to Adrian before you understand why I chose him, you will die loving the wrong man." My phone rang. A name I hadn't seen in 3 years lit up the screen like a threat. Adrian. For a second I couldn't move, like the universe had pinned me to the wall. Then I answered, voice raw. "What do you want?" His breathing came through the speaker, fast, unsteady. "Adrian," he said, and my name sounded like pain. "Don't go home." "I'm not. You don't understand." His voice sharpened. "Someone was in your mother's study last night. I saw the drawer open, the one with the false bottom." My skin prickled. "How were you in her house?" A pause. Then, quietly, "Because she asked me to be." My stomach dropped. He swallowed. "And because I owe you the truth. Camille is moving today. She's calling an emergency board meeting at Maison Morel. She's going to announce you forfeited your shares." My hand tightened around the letter. "She can't." "She will," Adrian said, "and your father is letting her." My throat burned. "Why are you telling me this?"
His voice broke. "The day you left me at the altar, I didn't deserve your tears, but you also didn't deserve the trap you walked into." "Where are you?" I demanded. A hesitation, then quietly. "Near the river, Pont Neuf. Stay there." "Leah, listen." I said, "Stay there." My voice turned to steel. "And if I find out you lied to me again—" A sound cut him off. A thud, a sharp inhale. Then Adrian whispered, barely audible, "He found me." "Adrian?" Breathing, strained. A man's voice in the background, low, controlled, familiar in the way nightmares are. "Give me the letter," the man said. My entire body went cold. I knew that voice. My father. Adrian coughed like someone had grabbed him by the collar. "Leah, don't."
The call ended. I stared at my phone, blank screen reflecting nothing back. Then I looked at the letter again, my mother's handwriting burning into my vision. "If you trust your father, he will bury you." I folded the paper with shaking precision, shoved it into my clutch, and started walking fast, too fast, toward a family that had finally decided to stop pretending it loved me. My phone buzzed again. Unknown number. "Go to Rue de la Baie now. If you go to Pont Neuf, you'll arrive too late." I stopped mid-step. 2 choices, 2 traps, and somewhere near the Seine, Adrian's voice had just been choked into silence. I turned sharply, heart tearing itself in half, and ran.
Rue de la Baie looked like the kind of street tourists photographed. Old stones, boutique windows, soft golden lights that made Paris feel romantic. Leia had never found romance in Paris, only performance. She pushed through the atelier door, the small bell chiming like a lie. The place smelled like her childhood. Alcohol, citrus, the powdery sweetness of iris. Perfume wasn't just a business to the Morels, it was religion. Behind the counter, a young assistant looked up, startled. "Madame, we're closed." Leia's voice came out clipped. "I'm Leia Morel." The girl's face drained of color. She fumbled, eyes darting to the back. "Monsieur Henri said—" "Where is the safe?" The assistant swallowed. I'm not allowed." Leia leaned forward until the girl could see the steel in her gaze. "Listen to me. My mother is dead. If you help my father keep secrets today, you may be helping him kill me tomorrow." The assistant froze, eyes widening with a fear too immediate to be fake. Then she whispered, "Follow me." In the back room, the walls were lined with drawers of raw materials. Rose Absolute, vetiver, leather accords, things that could seduce the world or suffocate it. The assistant knelt by a cabinet, pressed a hidden latch, and a panel slid open. A safe. Leia's breath stuck. She'd stood in this room 100 times, never knowing there was a mouth in the wall ready to swallow truth. The assistant slid a small envelope from her pocket. "Your mother left this code with me. She said if you came alone, it meant it was time." Alone. Leia didn't like the way her mother predicted loneliness like weather. She took the code. The numbers were written in her mother's neat hand. 140789. Bastille Day, 1989. A date that tasted like celebration and rebellion. Leia entered it. The safe clicked open with a soft mechanical sigh. Inside, a slim leather folder, a key, and a phone, an old burner wrapped in plastic. Leia's throat tightened. She opened the folder first. Documents, bank statements, a stack of transfers from Marianne Morel to Adrian Delacour. Monthly payments, for years, not small amounts, enough to buy a life, enough to buy a person. A sound escaped Leia that wasn't quite a sob, not quite a laugh. Of course there had been money behind him, behind his charm, his perfect timing, the way he'd shown up in her life like a story written for her. She flipped the page and found a contract, a private agreement between Marianne Morel and Adrian Delacour.
One line at the top made Leia's hands go numb. Protection and Surveillance Agreement. Subject, Leia M. Leia's stomach dropped. Protection? Surveillance? Her mother had hired the man Leia loved to watch her, to report on her, to protect her from something Leia didn't even know existed. A sharp, furious grief rose in Leia's chest, so hot she couldn't breathe through it. Her mother's love was a cage lined with velvet. The assistant shifted behind her. "Madame?" Leia didn't answer. She couldn't. If she spoke, she might shatter. She dug deeper into the safe and pulled out the key. Attached to it was a tag. Montreal, Unit 27. Montreal. The fire. Her mother's letter had named it like a ghost. She grabbed the burner phone and ripped the plastic. The screen lit up immediately, as if it had been waiting. One unread message. From Maman. Leia's eyes burned. Her thumb hovered, trembling. Then she opened it. "If you're holding this, they took my voice. Don't let them take yours. The truth is in Unit 27. And Leia, I'm sorry." Leia's vision blurred. She pressed the phone to her forehead, fighting the sob that wanted to tear out of her chest. Sorry wasn't enough. Sorry didn't undo the dead. Sorry didn't undo 3 years of waking up with Adrian's betrayal like a bruise on her ribs. She shoved the folder into her bag. "We're leaving," she told the assistant. The girl blinked. "We're leaving where?" Leia's jaw clenched. "Somewhere my father isn't yet." They stepped out of the atelier, and Leia immediately felt it. The shift in air, the subtle sense of being watched. A man stood across the street by a parked scooter, pretending to scroll on his phone. He wasn't pretending well. His gaze flicked up, straight to Leia, then back down, too quick. Leia's spine iced over. She grabbed the assistant's wrist. "Go back inside." "What?" "Now." The girl jerked, confused, then obeyed when she saw Leia's face. Leia walked away alone, forcing herself not to run. Running would confirm she was prey. She turned a corner and slipped into a cafe, the kind with fogged windows and 2 small tables. She sat where she could see the street, heart hammering. Her phone buzzed. A message from Camille. "Board meeting in 40 minutes. If you show up, you'll embarrass yourself. Stay gone, Leia. It's cleaner." Cleaner. Like death. Leia typed back before she could stop herself. "Take off her rings." Camille replied instantly. "Make me." Rage surged, so hot Leia's hands shook. Then another message appeared, this time from an unknown number, different from the earlier one. "Unit 27 is a trap. Your father knows you have the key. Go to Pont Neuf. Adrian is bleeding." Leia's lungs seized. Adrian. Bleeding. A memory flashed. Adrian's hands on hers, warm and steady, promising her he'd never let her fall. Her stupid heart had believed him. Her heart still remembered him as if it were addicted. She stood, nearly tipping her chair. 2 warnings, 2 directions, 2 disasters. Her mother had said, "Don't confront Camille alone. Don't trust her father." But her mother had also hired Adrian to watch her. Marianne Morel was dead, and even now she was still controlling the board. Leia forced herself to think like a lawyer, like a strategist, like a woman who refused to be moved like a chess piece. If Adrian was bleeding and her father was at Pont Neuf, then Adrian wasn't safe. If Unit 27 was a trap, then it's the kind you don't walk into blindly. But if the truth was in Unit 27, then the truth was bait. Leia paid quickly, stepped out, and hailed a taxi. "Pont Neuf," she snapped. The driver glanced at her in the mirror. "Ça va, madame?" "No." Traffic clotted the streets like an artery about to fail. Leia's knee bounced, her fingers white around her bag. The folder inside felt like it was burning through leather. When the taxi finally crawled near the river, Leia threw money at the driver and ran. The Seine was a dull ribbon under gray sky. Tourists leaned on the bridge, taking photos like nothing in the world had ever bled here. Leia scanned faces, too many, too indifferent. Then she saw him. Adrian was slumped against the stone wall beneath the bridge's arch, half hidden in shadow. His jaw was bruised dark purple. Blood seeped through a split at his eyebrow. One hand clutched his side.
and standing over him, Henri Morel. Leia's father looked elegant as always, perfect coat, silver hair combed back. He could have been on his way to the opera, except his hand was wrapped around Adrian's collar, holding him upright like a warning sign. Henri looked up and met Leia's eyes, as if he'd been expecting her all along. "You came," he said calmly. Adrian's gaze flicked to Leia, and his expression broke, relief and fear tangled together. Henri smiled faint and cold. "I told him you'd run wherever your heart dragged you." Leia's voice shook, but planted her feet. "Let him go." Henri's grip tightened. Adrian winced. "You have something that belongs to me," Henri said. "Your mother loved her little safes, her little secrets." He tilted his head. "Give me the letter, Leia." Leia's skin prickled. "It doesn't belong to you." Henri's eyes hardened. "Everything in this family belongs to me." Adrian rasped. "Leia, don't!" Henri struck him, quick, efficient. Adrian's head snapped to the side, and Leia made a sound she hated herself for, a broken gasp that proved Henri was right. Her heart still reacted. Henri watched her reaction like a scientist observing an experiment. "There she is," he murmured. "My daughter, so emotional, so predictable." Leia's vision tunneled. "My mother is dead," she said, each syllable sharp, "and you're here beating a man under a bridge like a criminal?" Henri finished, amused. "Yes, that's what she always said, wasn't it? That I was a criminal in a nice suit." His smile vanished. "And yet she married me." Leia's hand tightened around her bag strap. "What did you do to her?" Henri stepped closer, still holding Adrian. "I did nothing. Marianne did this to herself. Always dramatic, always the martyr." Adrian's voice came out strained. "He's lying." Henri hit him again, harder. Leia lunged forward, fury snapping her control. Henri lifted one finger, subtle, almost delicate, and two men stepped from the shadows near the stairs. Not police, not tourists. Security. Or something worse. Henri's voice stayed soft. "You see, Leia, you can scream, you can kick, you can make a scene, and then you'll be the hysterical daughter again, the one who ran from her own wedding." His eyes glinted. "Camille will love that."
Camille. Even here, she was a weapon. Leia forced herself to stop moving, to breathe, to think. "You want the letter," she said slowly. Henri nodded, satisfied. "And if I give it to you, you let him go?" Henri smiled. "I let him go anyway. Adrian has served his purpose." Adrian's eyes widened. "Leia, no!" Henri leaned in, voice like ice. "Your mother hired him to keep you close, to report on you, to make sure you didn't wander into inconvenient truths." His gaze flicked to Leia's bag. "Do you know what he reported, Leia? Do you know what he told Marianne the night before your wedding?" Leia's throat tightened. "Stop!" Henri's smile sharpened. "He told her you were ready to leave me, that you were asking questions about Montreuil." Leia's blood turned to fire. She stared at Adrian. Adrian's face crumpled. She asked me." "You told her," Leia whispered, voice breaking. The betrayal hit fresh, new, molten. "You told her I was looking." Adrian reached toward her with a trembling hand. "I was trying to protect you." Henri chuckled. "He says protect. He means control." Leia's eyes burned. The river behind them moved steadily, indifferent. Her hand slid into her bag and touched the leather folder. Proof of payments, proof of surveillance. Her mother's love quantified into monthly transfers. She wanted to slap Adrian. She wanted to collapse into him. She wanted to rip the past apart and stitch it back differently. Instead, she did something colder. She pulled out the folder and held it up so Henri could see. "I don't have just the letter," Leia said steadily now. "I have everything, the payments, the agreement, your wife's secrets." Henri's eyes flickered, just once, a crack in the mask. "Good." Leia continued. If you touch him again, I walk to the nearest police station and hand over proof that your wife was paying a man to spy on her daughter, and I tell them I think she was murdered. Henri's smile faded. You wouldn't. I would, Leia said, because you don't get to bury me with her. Henri studied her for a long moment. Then he released Adrian with a shove. Adrian hit the stone and coughed, curling around his ribs. Henri brushed imaginary dust from his sleeve. Very well, keep your little papers. He stepped closer to Leia, too close, his cologne sharp and familiar, the scent of childhood dinners and hidden threats. But hear me, he murmured. Montreuil belongs to me, Unit 27 belongs to me, and Camille, his mouth curved, Camille belongs to me. She will do what she's told, because she knows what I'll take from her if she doesn't. Henri's gaze dropped to Leia's face. And you, Leia, you are not my problem anymore. The words should have been relief. Instead, they felt like a death sentence. Henri turned and walked away with his men, disappearing into the crowd as if he hadn't just beaten someone under a historic bridge. Leia dropped to her knees beside Adrian, anger and panic tangled into one unbearable knot. Adrian's face was pale. He tried to sit up and hissed in pain. Don't touch me, Leia snapped automatically. Then her voice cracked. Why did you do it? Adrian swallowed. Because your mother came to me first. She said someone was watching you. She said your father... He winced. She said if you ever knew, you'd run. And she was right. You ran. Leia's eyes filled, furious. You let me think you cheated with Camille. Adrian's gaze dropped. Shame flooded his face. I didn't touch her. Leia froze. Adrian's voice turned rough. Camille kissed me. In that corridor. On purpose. She knew you were coming. Your mother set the timing. Camille set the bait. And I let it happen, because your mother said it would keep you away from Montreuil. Leia's world tilted. Her mother had sacrificed her love, to protect her, or to control her, or both. Leia shook her head, sick. That's insane. Adrian looked up at her, eyes bright with pain. It was the only way she could get you alive. Out alive. Leia's throat tightened. Out of what? Adrian tried to answer, and then his eyes widened past Leia's shoulder. Leia, he whispered, voice suddenly terrified. Leia turned. Across the river, on the opposite embankment, Camille stood watching them. She wasn't crying now. She was smiling, and in her hand, held up like a trophy, was the key tag Leia had pulled from the safe. Montreuil, Unit 27. Camille mouthed something Leia couldn't hear over the water, but Leia could read lips. It was a childhood skill learned from watching adults lie. Camille mouthed, too slow.
Montreuil was only a short drive from Paris, but it felt like crossing into a different country, one where the buildings were more tired, the streets less forgiving, the air less perfumed and more honest. Leia followed Camille's car at a distance, jaw clenched so tight her teeth ached. Adrian sat beside her in the passenger seat of the taxi, hunched, one arm wrapped around his ribs. Every bump made him flinch. Leia didn't look at him. If she looked at him, she might see the boy in the photograph, ice cream and sunlight, and forget the man who let her heart be used like a leash. Adrian broke the silence first. Camille shouldn't be alone in there. Leia laughed once, sharp. Camille's never alone, not really. Adrian's voice was hoarse. Henri might be there. Leia's fingers tightened around her bag. My father said Montreuil belongs to him. That means he's already moved his pieces. Adrian swallowed. Then we need to move faster. They arrived at a storage facility behind a fence topped with barbed wire. The sign said, Garde Meublé, in faded letters. Camille's car was parked near the entrance, angled like she'd stopped in a hurry. Leia's stomach twisted. She paid the driver, then climbed out, cold wind biting her cheeks. Adrian followed, slower, grimacing but stubborn. At the gate, the receptionist, a bored man with a cigarette hanging from his mouth, looked up. Leia stepped forward. Unit 27. He frowned. Name? Leia hesitated. Then Adrian said,
Marion Morel. The man's expression changed. Recognition, then discomfort, like the name came with trouble attached. She's dead, Leia added, watching his reaction closely. He didn't look surprised. He looked relieved. Unit 27 is paid up, he muttered, sliding a clipboard forward. Sign. Adrian's jaw tightened. Who's been accessing it? The receptionist's eyes flicked away. Nobody. Leia signed anyway, hands steady through sheer fury. They walked down narrow aisles of metal doors. The air smelled of dust and old cardboard, secrets stacked and locked away. Unit 27's padlock hung open. Leia stopped so abruptly Adrian nearly bumped into her. Her heart hammered. Camille had beaten them. The door was pushed up halfway, like someone had rushed inside and forgotten to close it. Leia ducked under and stepped in. The unit wasn't filled with furniture like she expected. It was filled with boxes, neatly labeled in her mother's handwriting. Montreal 2008, Montreal photos, Henri, Camille, Leia. Seeing her own name on a box made Leia's skin crawl. Camille stood in the center, her black funeral coat open now, her face flushed with excitement. She held a stack of photographs in one hand. When she saw Camille, Camille grinned. There you are. Leia's voice came out low. Put them down. Camille laughed. You don't get to order me around anymore. Adrian's voice was hoarse. Camille, leave. This isn't a game. Camille's eyes flicked at Adrian with pure contempt. Oh, shut up. You were paid to be here. Don't pretend you have morals now. Adrian flinched like she slapped him. Leia's gaze locked on Camille. Why are you here? Who told you about Unit 27? Camille's smile widened. Mama told me everything. Leia felt something snap inside her. Don't call her that like you didn't steal her rings before she was cold. Camille's expression hardened. You think you're the only one who lost a mother. You were always the favorite, the precious one, the Leia. Her voice sharpened. Did you ever stop to wonder why? Leia's blood turned to ice. What are you talking about? Camille lifted one of the photographs. This. She threw it toward Leia. It fluttered down like a dead leaf. Leia picked it up. It was a photo from the Montreal fire. Nighttime, flames, chaos, people in the distance, a building burning behind tape. And in the foreground, illuminated by flash, her father, Henri, holding a woman's wrist. The woman's face was blurred, turned away, but her posture was unmistakable, trying to pull free. Behind them, Marianne, Leia's mother, stood with her hand over her mouth, eyes wide with horror. Leia's lungs seized. Adrian stepped closer, staring. That's from the night of the fire. Camille's voice turned triumphant. Maman kept everything. Proof, like she was building a little museum of our sins. Leia's fingers tightened around the photo. Who is she? Camille shrugged. A woman who died. Leia's voice broke. How? Camille's eyes glittered. That's what we're here to find out. Leia's stomach flipped. Stop. You don't get to play detective now. You ruined my life. Camille's smile faded into something uglier. I didn't ruin your life, Leia. I saved it. You just hate me because I did it better. Adrian's voice went sharp. You didn't save her. You used her. Camille swung her gaze to him venomously. And you loved using her too. Leia forced herself to breathe. She stepped past Camille and opened the box labeled Leia. Inside, a birth certificate. Not hers. A different name. A different mother. Leia's heart stopped. The certificate read, Mother, Aline Duval. Child, redacted. Female. Date, 14/07/1989. The same date as the safe code, Bastille Day. Leia's vision blurred as if her body couldn't process the information fast enough. Her hand shook so hard the paper rattled. Adrian looked over her shoulder and went pale. Camille's voice dropped, soft and cruel. Now you see. Leia swallowed, throat burning. This is fake. Camille laughed quietly. It's stamped by the hospital, Leia. Mama's handwriting is all over the margins. The lies are organized, our family specialty. Leia's mouth opened, but no sound came out. Her entire identity, her childhood, her mother's love, her father's expectations, her place in the world, shifted like a floor giving way beneath her.
Adrian whispered, "Leia, I didn't know it would be in here." Leia turned on him, eyes wild. "Did you know?" Adrian's face crumpled. "I knew there was something. Your mother hinted, but I didn't know this." Camille leaned against a box, watching Leia unravel like it entertained her. "You're not even a Morel by blood. Isn't that funny? Mama spent her whole life protecting the wrong daughter." Leia's hands clenched around the certificate until it creased. "Why would she—" Camille cut in, voice suddenly sharp with old hurt. "Because she was guilty." Leia stared. "Guilty of what?" Camille kicked another box with her heel, making dust puff up. "Of stealing you." The words hit Leia like a punch. Adrian's eyes widened. "Camille!" Camille smiled, too bright. "Oh, don't look at me like that. You think I did it? I was a child. Mama did it. Mama and Papa." She spat the last word like poison. Leia shook her head, dizzy. No, she loved me." "She loved the idea of you," Camille snapped. "A little redemption doll, a way to forget the girl who died at Montreal." A wave of nausea rolled through Leia. The woman in the photo, Aline Duval, the name on the birth certificate. Leia's voice came out thin. "Aline died in the fire." Camille's eyes sharpened. "Or she was killed in it. That's what Papa always said behind closed doors." She shrugged, almost casual. "Mama couldn't save her, so she stole you, took the baby and ran back to Paris and pretended the world made sense." Leia's chest caved in with grief that didn't have a shape. She could barely breathe. Adrian stepped closer to Leia, careful, like approaching a wounded animal. "Leia, listen, if this is true—" Leia jerked away. "Don't touch me." Adrian's hand froze midair, pain flashing across his face. Camille smiled at that pain. "Yes, Leia, punish him. That's what you do. You punish people so you don't have to feel powerless." Leia's eyes snapped to Camille. "What do you want?" Camille's smile returned, slow. "What I always wanted." She held up another document, a will, pages thick with legal text. "A second will," Camille said, savoring Leia's mother's words like she'd stolen them too. "Mama left Maison Morel to you." Leia's stomach dropped. "What?" Camille's eyes shone with fury. "Not me, not Papa. You, the not Morel, the stolen baby, the one she thought deserved saving." Leia's hands trembled on the will. "Why would she—" Camille cut in, voice suddenly sharp with old hurt. "Because I won't let her." Leia stared. "You won't let her what?" Camille tapped the will. "You sign it over to me quietly, and we pretend you never opened this door." She tapped the will. "Or I go public. I tell the world you're a fraud. I tell the board. I tell the press. I tell them your mother built her empire on a kidnapping." Leia's vision tunneled. Her mother dead? Her father a liar? Her sister blackmailing me? Adrian paid to watch me? And now her entire life reduced to a headline? Camille stepped closer, her eyes bright with pain that looked like hate. "You took my mother from me," she hissed. "Now I take everything from you." Leia's voice was raw. "I didn't take her. She chose to love me." Camille's face contorted. "Exactly." A sound echoed outside the unit. Boots on concrete. Adrian stiffened. "Someone's coming." Camille's smile returned, colder than before. "Good." She raised her voice, loud, clear. "Help! She's attacking me!" Leia froze. Camille grabbed her own arm and slammed it into the metal shelf hard enough to bruise, then stumbled backward, eyes wide with staged terror. Footsteps rushed closer.
The receptionist appeared at the doorway with a security guard behind him. "What's going on?" Camille pointed at Leia, breathless. "She's trying to steal my mother's documents. She's unstable." Leia's mouth opened in disbelief. "You—" The guard stepped forward, hand on his belt. "Madame, you need to step away." Adrian moved between them. "No, Camille's lying. She broke in here. The lock was open." Camille's eyes flashed. "Adrian, shut up. You're a paid accomplice." The guard's gaze slid to Adrian, suspicious. Leia's pulse thundered. She realized with a sick clarity that Camille didn't come here for truce.
Camille came here for leverage, and she'd planned to make Leia look insane while taking the documents. Leia's voice turned cold. Camille, give me the key. Camille smiled. Make me. Leia's gaze darted to the boxes, to the folder, to the burner phone. Evidence everywhere, and none of it would matter if she ended up dragged out by security while Camille walked away with it. Adrian's voice dropped urgently. Leia, we need to leave, now. Leia's throat tightened. Leaving meant losing everything in this unit. Staying meant being arrested or worse. Camille's eyes gleamed. She held the will like a knife. Choose. Leia made her decision. She lunged, not at Camille, but at the box labeled Monterey Photos, grabbing it and yanking it toward her bag. Papers exploded everywhere. The guard shouted. The receptionist cursed. Camille screamed like a siren. She's stealing! Adrian grabbed Leia's arm. Leia! Leia's hand shook as she stuffed what she could, photos, the birth certificate, the will's last page, into her bag. She didn't know what she had, only that she couldn't leave empty-handed. The guard surged forward. Adrian shoved him back hard, then grabbed Leia and ran. They burst out of Unit 27 and sprinted down the aisle, footsteps pounding, voices shouting behind them. Leia's lungs burned. Her grief turned to rage, turned to pure survival. They reached the exit door, and Henri Morel stood there, not flanked by men this time, alone, like he didn't need protection. He looked at Leia, then at Adrian, then at Leia again, as if reading them like documents. His voice was calm. My daughters, he said softly, always so dramatic. Leia stopped short, breathless, bag clutched to her chest like a stolen organ. Henri's gaze dropped to the bag. You took what belongs to me. Leia's voice shook. It belongs to the truth. Henri smiled faintly. Truth is a luxury for people who can afford it. Then Henri's eyes lifted, locking on Adrian. And you, Henri said, voice turning sharp, have outlived your usefulness. Henri reached into his coat. Adrian's eyes widened. Leia's blood froze. Henri pulled out a gun.
For one suspended second, Leia couldn't move. Paris had always taught her that violence was something that happened elsewhere, on the news, in bad neighborhoods, in stories whispered for thrills. Not in her family. Not in a storage facility hallway under fluorescent lights with her father looking like he'd just come from a board meeting. Adrian stepped in front of her without thinking, shoulders tense despite his injuries. Henri's gun was small, almost elegant, the kind of weapon that didn't look like it belonged in a hand that wore cufflinks. Henri didn't point it at Leia. He pointed it at Adrian. Papa, Leia whispered, voice breaking, don't! Henri's eyes didn't soften. You still call me that. Adrian's voice was strained. Henri, don't do this here. Henri's smile was thin. Here? This is the perfect place, surrounded by locked doors and forgetful men. He tilted his head. Besides, you've always liked secrets, Adrian. I'm simply giving you one final one. Leia's stomach lurched. You're going to kill him. Henri's gaze flicked to her, almost curious. Would that upset you? Leia's eyes burned. Yes! Henri's mouth curved, pleased, like a man confirming a hypothesis. Then he still has value. Adrian's jaw clenched. Leia, don't bargain with him. But bargaining was all Leia had left. Her mother was gone. Camille was a knife in a silk dress. The police wouldn't save her from a man like Henri Morel. So Leia lifted her chin, forcing her voice steady. What do you want? Henri's gun dipped flightly, not enough to be mercy. The bag. Leia's grip tightened. No. Henri sighed, like she'd disappointed him. Then you leave me no choice. Henri's finger tightened on the trigger. Adrian moved, fast, despite the bruises, slamming his shoulder into Henri's arm. The gun fired. The sound cracked through the hallway like the world snapping. Leia screamed. The bullet hit the concrete, sparks jumping. The receptionist shouted, ducking behind the counter. Somewhere, an alarm began to wail, thin, panicked.
Henri stumbled back, shock flashing across his face that Adrian had dared touch him. Adrian grabbed Leia's wrist. "Run!" Leia ran. They burst out into the cold air, lungs burning, the alarm wailing behind them like a dying animal. Adrian dragged Leia between parked cars, toward the street. Leia's mind spun. Gunshot, Henri, Camille, the birth certificate crumpled in her bag like a fragile corpse. They reached a side road. Adrian flagged down a car, yanked the door open and shoved money at the driver so fast the man didn't even protest. Inside the car, Leia shook violently, adrenaline making her teeth chatter. Adrian pressed his palm against his ribs, breathing hard. "You're bleeding," Leia whispered, horror cutting through everything else. Adrian glanced down. Blood darkened his shirt near his side, fresh, spreading. Henri hadn't fired at Adrian on purpose, but chaos didn't care about intent. Adrian's jaw clenched. "It's not deep." Leia's eyes stung. "Don't lie to me!" Adrian's gaze met hers, raw and unguarded. "I'm not lying. Not now." The driver kept glancing in the mirror, nervous. "Where to?" Leia's mouth opened, but she didn't know. Home wasn't safe. The police weren't safe. The company, Maison Morel, was Camille's stage. Adrian rasped. "The Atelier, Rue de l'Abbaye. There's a back room, lockable." Leia swallowed. "Go." As the car moved, Leia pulled the bag onto her lap, hands shaking as she rummaged. Birth certificate, photos, the will's last page, Marianne's burner phone. And one more thing she hadn't noticed before. A small velvet pouch. She opened it. Inside was a ring. Not her mother's, not Camille's stolen trophy, a plain gold band, worn thin. Engraved inside, Aileen and H. Aline. Henri. Her father's initials. Leia's stomach twisted. Adrian watched her face and went pale. "What did you find?" Leia's voice cracked. "Proof." Adrian swallowed. "Of what?" Leia looked up, eyes shining with tears she refused to let fall. "My father didn't just lie about Montreal. He loved her, Eileen." Adrian's breath hitched. "And your mother?" "Stole Eileen's baby," Leia finished, voice numb. The words tasted like ash. The driver pulled up to the Atelier's alley entrance. Adrian paid him off and half fell out of the car, grimacing. Leia wrapped his arm around her shoulders, supporting him. Inside the back room, the scent of raw perfume materials hit Leia like memory trying to choke her. Adrian sank onto a chair, pale, jaw clenched. Leia locked the door, then turned and stared at him. "You knew something. How much?" Adrian's eyes closed briefly. "Enough to be afraid." "That's not an answer." Adrian opened his eyes. "Your mother hired me when you were 22. She said your father's past would come for you one day, and that Camille would be used against you. She said you weren't safe." His voice tightened. "I thought it was paranoia." Leia's laugh was short, broken. "And then you let Camille kiss you in the corridor because Marianne asked you to?" Adrian's gaze dropped, shame heavy. "Yes." Leia's chest hurt, like something inside it was tearing. "Did you ever love me, or was it all work?" Adrian's gaze looked up sharply, wounded. "I loved you." Leia's eyes filled. "Then why did you choose her over me that day?" Adrian's voice cracked. "I didn't choose her. I chose what Marianne said would keep you alive." He swallowed, and his face tightened with pain. "And I hated myself every day after." Leia wanted to throw something, to sob, to collapse. Instead, she pulled the burner phone out and opened the message again. "Don't let them take your voice." She inhaled, forcing herself upright. "I need to go to Maison Morel," Leia said. Adrian blinked. "What? Now?" "Yes." Leia's voice turned hard. "Camille is holding the board meeting. She's going to erase me, claim I forfeited my shares." Leia's fingers clenched. "I'm done being erased." Adrian's jaw tightened. "Henri will be there." "Good," Leia said, and surprised herself with how much she meant it. "Let him see me." Adrian tried to stand, then swayed. Leia caught him, furious and frightened. "You need a hospital." Adrian shook his head. No hospital. Henri has people. The wrong doctor. The wrong report. He grimaced. Just give me something to wrap it. Leia's stomach turned, but she nodded. She grabbed cloth from the atelier, hands shaking as she pressed it to Adrian's side. Adrian hissed. Leia whispered, softer despite herself. I hate you. Adrian's eyes closed briefly. I know. Leia's voice broke. And I don't want to. Adrian's breath hitched, like the words hurt more than the wound. A knock hit the back door. 3 knocks, then 2. A pattern. Leia froze. No one should know they were here. Another knock, harder. Adrian tensed. Leia. Leia grabbed a heavy glass bottle from the shelf, heart pounding, and crept to the door. Who is it? A familiar female voice answered. Calm, almost bored. Open up, Leia. Camille. Leia's skin turned to ice. How did you? Camille cut in, sharpening. Open the door or I call the police and tell you shot Papa. Leia's throat closed. I didn't. Camille laughed softly. Do you think truth matters? It's Paris. It's money. It's who people believe. Adrian's voice went low behind Leia. Don't open it. Leia's mind raced. Gunshot, Henri, Camille. The birth certificate crumpled in her bag like a fragile corpse. Camille's voice turned almost gentle. Let's not do this the ugly way. Come to the building. Sign the will page over to me. Give me Unit 27's documents. A pause. And I'll let Adrian live. Leia's stomach dropped. You don't control whether he lives? Camille's voice turned sharper than a blade. I do if Papa does. Leia's hands shook. Her eyes stung. She realized Camille wasn't just cruel. Camille was terrified. Of Henri, of losing, of being the daughter who was never chosen. Leia swallowed hard and said, What do you want? Camille's voice slipped just for a second. Because you don't understand what it's like to be second. Then the softness snapped back into venom. Open the door. Leia didn't open it. She moved to the small window in the back and peered through the curtain. Camille stood alone in the alley, impeccably dressed. No visible men, no obvious weapon. But Camille didn't need one. She held up her phone, screen facing the window. On it, a photo of Adrian collapsing under Pont Neuf earlier, Henri looming. Then another, a cropped image of Leia near the storage facility entrance mid-run. Camille had been documenting, building a narrative. Camille mouthed through the glass, You are already guilty. Leia's knees threatened to give. Adrian's voice was rough. Leia, if you give her those documents, she'll destroy them. Leia whispered, If I don't, she'll destroy me. Adrian's gaze held hers. Then destroy her first. The words landed heavy. Leia had spent her life trying to be the reasonable one, the soft one, the one who didn't become a monster. But monsters were winning. Leia turned back to the door. Camille, she called, voice steady. Camille's tone sharpened. Finally. Leia said, I'll come to the board meeting. Camille's smile was audible. Smart. Leia continued, But you're going to take off her rings in front of everyone. Silence. Then Camille laughed, bright, false. You're delusional. I'm not done, Leia said, heart hammering. You'll take them off and hand them to me, and you'll tell the board you lied about me forfeiting shares. Camille's voice turned dangerous. Or what? Leia looked at Adrian, pale, bleeding, watching her like she was a last chance. Then Leia said the most reckless thing she'd ever said out loud. Or I'll tell them I'm Elaine Duval's daughter. Camille went quiet. Leia pressed on, voice shaking but relentless. And I'll tell the press I'll burn Maison Morel to the ground and drag Papa with it. A long pause. When Camille spoke again, her voice was low, trembling with rage. You wouldn't. Leia's eyes filled. Try me. Camille's breath came through the door, sharp. Then Camille said, almost a whisper, If you do that, you kill her twice. Mama, you kill her legacy. Leia's throat burned. She killed mine first. Camille's voice snapped. Meet me at Maison Morel in 1 hour. Bring the documents. Leia's heart pounded. And Adrian? Camille's voice turned sweet again. Bring him too. I want to see his face when he realizes he never mattered. Footsteps retreated. Leah stood frozen, bottle still in hand. Adrian's voice was hoarse. She's setting a trap. Leah whispered, So am I. She opened her bag and pulled out the will's last page, smoothing it with trembling fingers. At the bottom was Marianne Morel's signature. Above it, one line that Leah hadn't seen before, handwritten, squeezed between legal text like a final act of defiance. If Leah tells the truth, forgive her. If she stays silent, she dies. Leah's eyes flooded. Her mother had known. She had planned for this, and now Leah had to decide what kind of death she was willing to live with.
Maison Morel's headquarters sat near the Seine like a jewel box. Glass, stone, and expensive silence. The lobby smelled like their signature fragrance, verite, truth. Leah almost laughed at the cruelty of it. She walked in with Adrian beside her, his steps slower, his face pale but determined. Leah's bag was heavy with evidence. Her chest was heavy with everything else. At reception, the assistant glanced up and stiffened. Madam Leah. We're expected, Leah said, voice smooth. The elevator ride up felt like an ascent to judgment. Adrian leaned close and whispered, Whatever happens, don't let Henri isolate you. Leah's mouth tightened. I'm not isolatable anymore. The boardroom doors opened. Inside, the long table gleamed like a blade. The board members, older men and women in tailored clothes, looked up with surprise that quickly shifted to calculation. At the head of the table sat Camille. Her posture was perfect. Her smile was composed. Her fingers were bare. No rings. For a second, Leah's heart jerked. Confusion, suspicion, a flicker of triumph. Then she saw the rings. They sat on the table in front of Camille, placed carefully atop a printed agenda, like an offering, like bait. Camille spoke first, voice clear. Leah, you're late. We're expected, Leah said, voice smooth. A board member cleared his throat. Madame Camille, you said Madame Leah had relinquished... Camille cut in smoothly. Yes, Leah left the family. She has no interest in the company. Leah's gaze locked on Camille. That's a lie. A ripple moved through the room. Interest sharpened. Scandal was a currency here. Camille's expression didn't falter. Leah, please, this isn't the place for your emotions. Henri entered then, as if summoned by the word. He walked in calm as ever, eyes sweeping the room like he owned the air. His gaze landed on Adrian, and something cold passed between them. Henri's voice was measured. Leah, I'm disappointed. Leah met his eyes. Get in line. Henri's mouth tightened. Camille's eyes flashed, delighted at the tension, terrified beneath it. Leah took a breath and pulled out the will page, sliding it across the table. This is the second will, signed by Marianne Morel. A board member leaned forward, adjusting glasses. Where did you get this? Leah's voice stayed steady. From my mother's safe, the one none of you knew existed. Camille laughed softly. Convenient. Leah ignored her and continued. My mother left controlling interest to me. The room went still, like everyone collectively stopped breathing. Henri's voice turned sharp. That's absurd. Leah's gaze stayed on him. Is it? Camille's hand twitched toward the rings on the table, then away. A small tell, a crack. Henri leaned in, voice low. You don't know what you're doing. Leah's hands shook, but she forced them still. I know exactly what I'm doing. I'm ending the family tradition of silence. Camille's smile sharpened. Then tell them, Leah. Tell them everything. Tell them how unstable you are. Tell them you're not even a Morel. The words hit the room like a thrown glass. Board members stared. Henri froze. Adrian tensed beside Leah, ready to catch her if she fell. Leah felt the old instinct to deny, to soften,
to make things easier for everyone else. Then she heard her mother's line in her head like a final command. If she stays silent, she dies. Leah pulled out the birth certificate and held it up. My name at birth wasn't Leah Morel. My birth mother was Aileen Duval. A murmur surged. Shock, horror, hunger. Henri's face drained of color. Camille watched Leah like she was watching a building catch fire. Terrified, thrilled. Henri snapped. Enough. Leah turned to him, eyes burning. No, now we talk about Montreuil. She tossed the photograph onto the table, the one with Henri gripping a woman's wrist while Marianne watched in horror. Board members leaned in, faces tightening. Henri's voice dropped deadly. Where did you get that? Leah's laugh was bitter. From the unit my wife, your wife, kept hidden because she knew one day she'd need proof against you. Henri's eyes flicked, calculating. You think a blurry photograph proves anything? Leah's hands trembled as she pulled out the gold band, engraved Aileen plus H, and set it beside the photo. It proves you knew her. It proves she mattered enough to you to wear her name like a secret. Henri stared at the ring. For the first time in Leah's memory, her father looked unsteady. Camille broke the silence, voice cutting. Papa, tell them. Tell them the story. They deserve to know what she's doing. Henri's gaze snapped to Camille, sharp, warning. Camille flinched. Leah saw it clearly then. Camille wasn't Henri's partner. Camille was Henri's hostage, dressed up as an heir. Henri straightened, voice turning smooth again for the board. This is a private family matter. Leah's voice rose. No, it's a corporate matter, a legal matter, a human matter. A woman died. A board member, an older woman with silver hair and an expression like granite, spoke quietly. Henri, did you start that fire? Henri's jaw tightened. No. Leah looked at Camille. Did he kill her? Camille's eyes flashed, fear fighting rage. Stop asking me like I'm your ally. Leah stepped closer to Camille, lowering her voice so only Camille could hear. I know what it's like to be controlled. I know what it's like to be made into a weapon. Camille's lips parted, a flicker of something wounded showing through. Leah continued. He'll throw you away the second you're stopping being useful, just like he's trying to throw away Adrian, just like he threw away Aileen, just like he threw away Maman. Camille's eyes filled, furious tears she refused to let fall. Henri snapped, Camille, enough. Camille flinched again, involuntarily. The whole room saw it. A board member's eyebrows lifted, another shifted, uncomfortable. Henri had lost control for half a second, and in rooms like this, half a second was blood in the water. Henri's gaze cut to Leah, voice low. If you continue, I will ruin you. Leah's voice was quiet. You already did. Adrian stepped forward, voice rough but clear. Marianne Morel hired me. She paid me to protect Leah because she believed Henri would kill her if she found out the truth about Montreuil. The room erupted in murmurs. Henri's face turned dangerous. Adrian didn't back down. I saw the threats, I saw the paranoia, and I saw bruises on Marianne's arms she tried to cover with sleeves. A board member gasped softly. Henri's mouth opened, then closed again. Leah stared at Adrian, shock cutting through her. Bruises. Her mother had been hurt, and Leah had never known. Grief hit Leah so hard her knees nearly buckled. Camille's voice suddenly cracked, too loud, too sharp. Stop! Stop it! Everyone turned. Camille stood, hands gripping the edge of the table so hard her knuckles whitened. Her eyes shone with tears she couldn't hold back anymore. I did it, Camille said. Silence slammed down. Henri's face went still. Leah's heart stopped. Camille's voice shook. I sent the messages. I opened Unit 27. I set you up. She swallowed, eyes wild.
I did it because I couldn't stand it anymore. The lying, the pretending, her loving you like you were the only one worth saving. Henri's voice was low. Camille. Camille flinched, then snapped. Don't. The board sat frozen, like no one dared inhale. Leah's voice barely worked. Camille, did you kill her? Camille's breath hitched, tears spilled now, hot and humiliating. No. Relief slammed through Leah so hard she nearly collapsed. Camille shook her head violently. I didn't kill her, but I didn't stop it. Henri's voice turned sharp. Camille, be quiet. Camille's laugh broke into a sob. You think I'm going to be quiet for you now? Camille reached into her bag and pulled out a small recorder, a sleek digital device. She set it on the table. I recorded him, Camille said, voice shaking, the night she died. He didn't know I was listening. He was screaming at her, and she was crying, and he said... She swallowed, eyes fixed on Henri with hatred and grief tangled together. He said she'd regret ever bringing Aileen's baby into his house. Henri's face went gray. Leah couldn't breathe. Camille's finger hovered over the recorder like it was a detonator. Henri stepped forward fast. Camille, give me that. Camille jerked back. No. Leah's voice came out ragged. Play it. Camille's eyes met Leah's, two sisters finally seeing each other without mirrors. Camille whispered, If I play it, everything dies. Leah's tears spilled. Then let it die. Camille pressed play.
The room filled with audio, raw, intimate, horrifying. Henri's voice, unmistakable, seething. You stole her. You stole her from Aileen, and now you want to take what's mine too? I will bury you, Marianne. I will bury you like I buried her. A strangled sound came from Leah's throat. A board member's chair scraped back. Someone whispered, Mon Dieu. The recording continued, Marianne crying, begging. Then Henri again, lower, colder. If you tell Leah, you'll die. If you leave me, you'll die. The audio cut off. Silence after confession is louder than any scream. Henri stood very still, like a statue that had just been proven hollow. Leah wiped her face with shaking fingers. She looked at the board. You want accomplishment? Leah said, voice breaking but clear. Here it is. You have proof, you have motive, you have a history of intimidation, and you have a company built on a lie. Henri's voice turned smooth in desperation. It's manipulated. Camille is unstable. Leah is... The silver-haired woman lifted a hand. Stop. Henri froze. She continued, voice firm. Security will escort Henri out. We are calling the authorities. Henri's eyes flashed. You can't. You are finished, she said. Henri's gaze snapped to Leah, hatred naked now. You think this makes you righteous? Leah's voice shook. No, it makes me honest. Henri lunged toward the recorder. Adrian moved, grabbing Henri's arm. Henri swung wildly. Adrian stumbled, pain flashing. Camille screamed, Stop! Leah stepped forward, between them, hands out, voice raw. Enough! For a second, everyone froze. Henri stared at Leah like he didn't recognize her. Leah met his gaze and said quietly, You don't get to touch anyone anymore. Henri's breath came fast, rage shaking him. Then, like a man realizing the room had turned against him, he stopped fighting. Security entered. Henri was escorted out, still elegant, still furious, but no longer untouchable. When the doors closed behind him, Leah realized she was shaking from head to toe. Camille sank back into her chair as if her bones had turned to water. She pressed her palms to her eyes, sobbing silently. Leah stood there, watching her sister break. A board member asked softly, Madame Leah, what do you want to do now? Leah looked at the rings on the table, symbols of a legacy that had cut them both. She picked them up. For a moment she held them like they were heavy enough to crush her. Then she set them down again. I want to rebuild, but not like this, not with secrets, not with stolen identities, not with fear. She looked at Camille. Camille's voice was small. Are you going to ruin me? Leia's throat burned. She thought of the wedding corridor, of humiliation, of rage. Then she thought of Camille flinching at Henri's voice. Leia whispered, You ruined yourself trying to survive. Camille sobbed harder. Adrian stood beside Leia, swaying slightly, blood still staining his shirt. His eyes were red-rimmed, haunted. Leia turned to him. You should leave. Adrian flinched but nodded. I will, if you want. Leia's chest tightened. I don't know what I want, not with you. Her voice cracked. But I know what I won't do anymore. I won't live in a lie just to keep love. Adrian swallowed, eyes shining. That's fair. Leia looked out the window at the Seine, steady, indifferent, remembering everything. When the meeting ended, Leia walked down to the river alone. She held the birth certificate in her hands like a fragile truth. Aline Duval, a woman who loved, who had been destroyed, who had been erased. Leia whispered into the cold air, I'm sorry. And for the first time, the apology wasn't used to keep peace. It was used to honor pain. Behind her, footsteps approached. Camille. She stopped a few feet away, arms wrapped around herself, face blotchy from tears. Camille's voice shook. Do you hate me? Leia swallowed. Yes. Camille's eyes squeezed shut, like she deserved that. Leia continued, softer. And I still want you alive. Camille's sob broke free. I didn't know how to be loved without stealing it. Leia's eyes burned again. Neither did Mom. They stood by the river, two daughters of a woman who had tried to fix guilt with control. And Leia understood the moral in her bones, not as a slogan, but as a scar. Love without truth becomes possession. Secrets don't protect families, they infect them. And if you keep swallowing betrayal to keep things together, you don't keep a family, you keep a prison. Leia breathed in the cold air and let it hurt. Then she turned away from the water and walked back toward the city, not as a Morel, not as a Duval, not as anyone's pawn, just as herself.